Welcome to Elevate Your Event, your favorite podcast for transforming fundraising events. Join us weekly for expert tips and creative ideas to make your next event a standout success.
In today's episode of Elevate Your Event, we're joined by Ashish Malik, CEO of 108 Ideaspace. We'll dive into how nonprofits can harness the power of technology to streamline operations, boost donor engagement, and stay ahead of the curve with trends like AI. If you're ready to take your nonprofit's tech game to the next level, this one's for you.
Welcome back to the Elevate Your Event podcast, where we talk about all the various ways you can make your next fundraising event better, or even your nonprofit and your marketing and your donor development better. So we've got a very special guest here with us in the studio today, Ashish Malik from 108 Ideaspace. We were just talking about your domain, 108 Ideaspace. So why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit of information about your business, your background, and how you got into this?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm Ashish Malik, the co-founder and CEO at 108 Ideaspace. I have over 20 years of experience in helping organizations, primarily associations and nonprofits, modernize their technology stack, improving collaboration, stakeholder engagement, and building capacity. I also had the privilege of serving on a few nonprofit boards that helps me understand how nonprofits function from a governance standpoint, just helps me better connect with my clients. So I was not working with nonprofits forever. I started working with them for the last, I've been working with them for about 14 years now, and, just love that space. The nicest people on the earth, I think, work for nonprofits. How I got into this, it goes back over 20 years. I'm an engineer by training, did my engineering in India. And then I started working with the giant outsourcing IT providers, Tata Consultancy Services, followed up with the Infosys Technologies, served some of the amazing clients like American Express, Nortel Networks, during the glory years of Nortel, a number of years ago. And then I was always fascinated about, not just the technology, but what technology can do for businesses. And that's what kind of brought me to Canada about 16 years ago. Figure, how I can do something different with technology. And, within a couple of years, that's when I've founded 108 Ideaspace with a couple of partners. And one of my partners happened to be serving association and nonprofits for a long, long time. He started as a web strategy development shop back in the 90s when everybody wanted to get a website. And, kind of evolved with times over the years with the evolution of social media, helping organizations figure out whether to take advantage of Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or stay away from them. Now there are like hundreds of social media platforms. So this space is pretty dynamic and changing always. And that's what we have done at 108 as well. So in 2012, when we rebranded as 108 Ideaspace, the mission was, how can we use the right technology, right systems, great design to help the cause of nonprofit organizations and associations. And over the years, I've seen a lot of technology limiting a lot of nonprofits and associations from achieving what their missions. And we take pride in helping and bringing those skills that might be missing or they might need supplement to help them achieve their missions or amplify their missions. So we've been doing that for the last 12 years, specifically with association and nonprofits, building them, improving their digital presence, whether it's redesigning their website, connecting it with different systems, building them a CRM, a fundraising system, a donor management system. It's all about how can we fit in and improve the current state of systems to drive what they're looking to drive and achieve their mission.
And I would think kind of getting them to connect together. So are you guys building out your own tools, or are you just helping them with like existing donor management systems that are available on the market?
A bit of both. We like to be system agnostic because we don't think, all nonprofits are not the same. They are pretty unique. All associations are not the same. They are pretty unique. So there's no one system which can satisfy the needs for all the nonprofits or all the associations. So it's about finding the perfect match or the most close to perfect match. And they each organization have different functions in the organization. So they need a combo of different systems which can actually work together very well.
Right.
So we specialize in helping them figure out what combination is going to work for them. And then, of course, we do have some systems which we know work very well and better than others for, say, a bigger set of our audience or clients. So we do specialize in implementing those systems.
Well, that helps. I mean, I would imagine, like, I started my first nonprofit back in 2004. And I remember it was like, okay, well, we need some tools, and this is it's 20 years ago. It was like there wasn't a ton of tools, but there was enough out there. It's like we need to be able to get donations off our website. We need to be able to process those. We need to be able to store that information somewhere. We start looking around, and man, I'll tell you, it wasn't even just the lack of staff and resources internally. It was the lack of money we had. So how do you work with nonprofits from all sizes to kind of help them grow into whatever tools are available? Or are you typically focused on those that have kind of at least got an established budget of a certain amount and a large enough staff to be able to take it on? Because I would imagine with a lot of the tools out there, it's like you could go implement it, but they got to have the expertise and staff to run it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I wish I could say that we can help all nonprofits of all sizes, but yes, for the reasons not all nonprofits can afford the kind of systems that they might need, especially the smaller ones, maybe in a different phase where even an Excel or an Access database system might be okay for them. So it's all depends on the evolution of the nonprofit, where they are and where they want to get to as well. Because sometimes you will like to put like a sophisticated system in place because you're going to become something else, and redoing a system is a lot more work, a lot more disruption, because if you start on a wrong system today and have to replace that in 2 or 3 years, it's not just the question of spending money. It's the question of taking your staff's focus away from that system as well, and whatever they might be doing. So it can put them a few months back or a few years back on the roadmap. So we do work with small organizations, but yes, it's selective. Our sweet spot tend to be more mid-sized to large organizations, smaller organizations who are looking to be, who have goals and aspirations of becoming bigger and helping more, say, individuals and in the community.
Right.
So that's the focus.
So when you're doing this, because I've seen this on the commercial side too, right? So it's like, okay, so here's the tool we want to use. And to your point, right? I mean, you're saying, hey, look, you're better off if you're going to have 10 kids, move into the 5,000 square foot house with 8 bedrooms now, right? So because moving later is going to be painful. And so, and we've even done this at Handbid, like and I've seen this a lot with nonprofits, especially those that decide they're going to go with Salesforce to start, and then, they have all this power ahead of you, but you don't really know how to use it. I guess my question for you is, you must be helping them with kind of best practices along the way, because it's one thing to say, here's your donor management system. I've connected it to your website. Here's your donation page. It's another thing to say, how do you monitor like the performance of that? Like, am I getting a good conversion rate off my website to a donation page? And then what happens to that person as soon as they complete that donation? Not just the initial receipt that goes out, but whatever workflows and email campaigns and stuff that they're put into to just continue to stay connected with them. Are you helping your clients with that also?
Absolutely. You have to take care of all the different aspects. In the end, it's not just about putting that web page down and say people are going to come in and make their donations. I think there's a lot at play. I think it kind of starts at the mission and the cause. How do you find the right kind of people for your cause? And once you have found them, how do you make it easy for them to take that next step? So if I am attached to a cause and I Google or come to know about the nonprofit, get to their website, so that's just half the battle. And then the next thing is you make it easy for them, get to the donation page, explain the cause, and give them that trust and confidence that that dollar or dollars they will be spending and donating today are going to make a difference. And so it's about the user experience for the donation page itself. And funny enough, I was tuned into another podcast just yesterday, thinking looking at different A/B tests which are performed on different donor pages, and things that you will think work better actually does not work better on the ground. Like, for example, on a lot of donor pages you will see buttons for 5, 10, 25, 50, 100, multiple dollar amounts for donation, versus if you make it easy for them to just key in that donation amount. The test actually showcased that keying in the donation amounts work way better than compared to when you provide them with the options. And the reason was because by giving them all these options, you are making them think more. And this generation does not like to think more. We are in the internet generation, so it's about the user experience on the donation page. And then once that is taken care of and the transaction actually happens, yes, you're fulfilling your promise. You're giving them the receipt, so they know the donation is getting to the right place. But what happens next is very important, because you would like the individual has donated to the cause, and they don't care about you, they care about the cause and what you will do with that money. So it's about how do you communicate with them on an ongoing basis how that dollar is flowing. And I had the privilege of working with an organization a few years ago, Canadian Chiropractic Foundation, Research Foundation, and we did an interesting thing for them at that time. It was called the journey of a dollar. So we actually mapped that whole process, how that dollar is going to make an impact eventually, and then tying it back to the cause, of the Canadian Chiropractic Association, which is to improve the back health of Canadians. And I think that's the level of thinking that needs to happen from right from the beginning to how do you close the loop and make that happen. And it's a combination of technology as well as a lot of business thinking and knowing your audience, and in this case your donors as well.
So I totally agree with you. So as you're chatting with these organizations and kind of helping them through this process, what do you see as kind of the key hurdles that most charities have to kind of implementing what you guys are trying to implement for them?
If I can say there were one or two, there are a lot of things which come in the way. One big issue is I think the non-profit organizations, they have a lot on their plate for compared to the amount of work they have, because there are generally no limits to what you can do. And I think it's one of the very difficult space to work in as well, because the expectation is how do you maximize the dollars, but don't use those dollars for yourself or for marketing and stuff, and do for the cause that you're going to serve. And it's a difficult place to be in. How do you make sure you maximize the effect of the dollar, making the right decisions. And then the whole governance piece of that, unlike a for-profit business where you have, a very, structured machine where, you have a board of advisors or directors, whose livelihood is connected to the success of the business. Nonprofits are different. There is social accountability. You have a board, volunteers, committees. So a lot is driven through that. So the hurdles, all of this in a way is an opportunity, but it's a hurdle as well. How do you keep your volunteers engaged? How do you keep your staff engaged? And if you're already thin-staffed and doing a lot of stuff, if you don't have the staff retention and if people move on, how do you ensure, the knowledge does not go with them? And you
got to document it. One, I think you brought up an important point there, because you said, like, to me, and I don't want to lose this point, like, I get it. And we see a lot of this with Handbid. People look at the implementation and the improvement of these areas of their business as simply a cost and not an ultimate return. And they say, I got to spend 85% of my fundraising dollars or 80% of my fundraising dollars on my program services. And that could be ideal, but you also need to invest in the business, right? All nonprofits need to invest in themselves. And I could see how that could be a common challenge for you to remind them of that, look, this is the type of stuff that ultimately down the road is going to pay off for you. And we see the same thing in events. It's like, you're not just buying event fundraising software to automate your event with no return. You're buying event fundraising software, you're buying auction software, whatever it might be, to maximize the guest experience, which should generate for you a greater return. Because you're also going to be collecting really valuable information at that event that can feed back into the tools that you're building and putting in place for them. And so we definitely circle back with them as well on those kinds of things, because it's not intuitive, I think, to most, right? To say, hey, I'm going to bring these guys in and here's the business case for doing it.
I agree. And you're touching on a very important subject, which is data, right? And nowhere data is more important than in nonprofit world, because, how do you measure? How do you show the impact of what you're doing? And, is it 85% of your funds are getting spent on programs, or, 65, in the end, you need to make an impact, and you need to measure, how you're using those dollars and what those dollars are doing. And if, you can measure and connect those funds with your programs and the impact you're making, I think that's a recipe for, getting more, whether it's funding, more donations, because I'm sure there's a huge audience for a lot of nonprofits there. There's so much that can be done in the community to improve the community, whether it's the state of people or, children, the planet Earth, so
right.
There's so much that can be done.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because you say it'd be great to be able to connect the fundraising dollar to the work that is done. And I think for a lot of charities, I think that the thing that maybe at least for mine, the thing they fear the most is those donor designated funds, which are like, you have to spend it on these programs, which makes it really difficult to operate your business when all of your funds are being designated in advance. And so I think it would be helpful to say, look, these are the programs we're funding, and here's the growth in those programs. Where did your dollar go? Your dollar went to not just specifically that program. If that's where the donor wants his dollar, that's fine. But your dollar went to growing those programs. Your dollar went to growing the number of other donors that have come in, right? Your dollar went to, operationally, improving some of the things we do, or maybe reducing costs in other areas. I think that's the hard sell, I think, for some charities to figure out how to make.
Yeah, and I think in our experience, even the charities who know, what numbers are important for them, we typically see they spend a lot of time getting to those numbers as well. And that's kind of, takes the discussion back to, how easy the systems and technology is making it for them to draw those numbers. Are these numbers available to them in a real-time dashboard, or they have to, combine data from multiple sources, run, slice and dice the numbers in an Excel, and then come up with, something tangible that they can share with the audience.
Right.
And we see, if the better the nonprofit is to showcase that impact, measure that impact, and communicate that, it has a direct correlation with the how well they're going to do in their fundraising campaigns, or if they're government funded. Again, you have to do your business case or the case to generate more funds for the different programs that you run. So it's kind of a combination of the efficiency you can drive. As well as knowing what is important.
So, and I would imagine, like, your all's role with a lot of your clients also is to just stay several steps ahead of them. So what trends or what types of changes are you seeing in the marketplace that you're now communicating back to your clients and saying, hey, we need to start looking out for these things, or we need to start thinking about implementing some of these new technologies?
That's a great question. As I mentioned during the intro as well, there's so much changing in this space, and I think the pace of change is faster than it was ever been. Right now we're talking about like a flurry of systems that are in front of you to choose from. That's a big challenge, and the cost of choosing the wrong technology is way more than just the cost of implementation. It's the cost of disruption, the opportunity cost, the time that it takes away from serving your mission. So there's so many things on that. Um, More so, I think it's also about when uh, the technology changes, how quickly is your staff able to adopt to that as well. So it's about that adoption. And I shared that a lot of organizations actually have this challenge of not having enough knowledge management built in, which means forget about new technologies. Even the current technologies, they might not be optimizing those technologies. Right now, we are talking about artificial intelligence. So yes, there is generative AI, predictive AI. How do you make sure you're using it in the right way to actually take advantage of it? And a lot of times, I think when changes like these happen, it's the question of how do you put some guidelines in place for your employees, for your staff, to make sure they're using the technology in the right way, and actually using it to create more efficiencies than creating issues within the organization, because any change is comes with its own set of risks as well. Not just in the non-profit world, the some of the risks or challenges that have been seen with artificial intelligence in the for-profit world is known to public as well. Like what happened with Samsung, for example, with the code, getting public. Then the Air Canada chatbot situation and things like that. So when nonprofits, they're not positioned well, I would say naturally, because of their small sizes and thin staff, sometimes very thin staffed on the IT front as well. So they're not really naturally well positioned to adapt or take advantage of these technologies. So the question is always, how do you stay one step ahead and think about the risks, and then how do you mitigate those risks, and then think about the rewards that you can drive from adopting a new technology.
AI is definitely the buzzword these days, and I think most of us have seen or I would think even experienced how, like, I would think efficient it can be, and how much more productivity you can get out of a smaller team with it. But to your point, you got to be a little bit careful with how you're using it and what you're using it for. But are you helping your clients right now implement AI at any level in their organization?
Very few clients, again, because with any new technology, it's always about, how do you walk before you run? And with a technology like AI, I think it's still not mature. Things are changing. It's getting better. So the question right now is, where's that best fit? As far as using the technology is concerned. So we work a lot on platforms like Salesforce, HubSpot, for marketing automation, for CRM, donor management. So there are AI features and functionality which are embedded in these tools already, which is again is improving day by day. It's not perfect, so we are helping our clients figure out those kind of pieces and say, how can they best utilize those pieces to drive whatever they are looking to drive. Whether it's about writing emails, subjects, copy. A lot of organization staff have been using Grammarly, like tools like that for a long time, which rely on some algorithms like that. And then I think the bigger use case is, can they use these AI tools to do a better job at fundraising, for example? There are certain tools in the market which can predict and assess, say, donor levels or donation levels for your for your audience list or the donor list. So I think using it for those kind of purposes, again, how much can you rely on that data? What tools are better compared to the others? So we have been helping our clients with a lot of those kind of things, and then saying, how do we bring that intelligence from the third party AI tool back into their CRM, filtering that, and then connecting the dots with their marketing team to actually take things to the next level, or use that information for fundraising or even serving their clients as well.
Yeah. Because you do have to trust the data. I agree with that. I mean, the generative stuff is nice, right? You're in HubSpot, you're in Salesforce, you're in whatever tool you're using. Is like, make my email sound better, right? I mean, it's great at that. And if you're, connecting with a donor, I think it could definitely help clean up and polish some of the emails going out there. But where we've seen it, I would agree with you, kind of not fully ready yet, is when you start using it to make like decisions or business, even fundraising decisions. And so, we've messed around with some of those tools ourselves. And it's like, if I gave you a list of people that came to a previous event, could you give me some sort of information about their propensity to donate or their, their preferences for certain types of auction items or whatnot? And we've seen mixed success with that. And so I think, to your point, it's not quite there, but man, the power of it is coming, right? I would imagine. I love the concept of being able to say, looking at the behavior of your donor base across a 5-year period, here's some things that you should be doing. Here's some groups that you should be. Here's some events these people should be invited to. Here's some groups you should put them in. Here's an email campaign that would work the best with this particular subset of your database. And not yet, I would say, but exciting. It might be out there soon.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think one other use case we typically see for this sort of a thing, which is, definitely, a lot of for-profit organizations like Amazon, for example, use it quite a bit, is with their existing clients or existing donors in case of nonprofits, understanding their behavior and, predicting that and say, what's the time for making that ask, and the way you make that ask as well. In case of Amazon, you see, if you bought a certain product, you will typically see, a pop-up or a section comes, folks who have bought this are interested in this as well. The whole ability to cross-sell, upsell. So I think it's very relevant for associations, which are nonprofits as well. But, they not just collect donations, but they provide multiple services to their members. Some of these may be monetized. So again, it's getting mature. I think what I would think organizations need to focus on right now is making sure they're collecting some of that information and data. So be able to leverage that as the technology becomes more mature. Because the last thing you want to be doing is completely ignoring it. Because you can't, it's already there, and so you need to start prepping for it. As soon as these models become more mature, you're not left behind, and you're actually able to take advantage of these immediately.
Totally agree with you, and that's something that we always are preaching to our clients, because we have a lot of clients who, they're trying to make their event as efficient as possible, and then, even though we've communicated to them, hey, that event is not just another touch point with your existing donor base, it might be the entry point to a relationship with a new donor. You have to get that information. You have to capture it. And not only do you have to capture it, you have to use it. And, it kind of startles me, I guess, a little bit that so many organizations, they bounce from event software to event software to event software, and they're leaving this trail of data behind that gets destroyed by their former vendor, and they don't have any access to it anymore. And I was like, that could be a gold mine for you in the future. Not just the fact that Ashish Malik came to my event, but here's what he bid on, here's what he donated, here's the people that came with him that are now connected to him. All of that can be super valuable information once you have the tools in place that can analyze it. But it's gone for a lot of these people.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because if you like that's why I think it's important to start on the right foot, with the right technology. And one of the conversations we always have with clients is, when they're switching systems, what data they should leave behind and what data they should, move with to the new system. And I think it's an important discussion to have, because, there goes the intelligence. You've been, talking to these people for a long time. They're engaged with your events, and so how far back you go, and how you bring the right kind of data. When I say the right kind of data, the clean data as well, on those people, those individuals. I think all of those aspects are important.
100%. And to think about not just like what data do I bring with me, or what data do I, for example, capture, and process, but like even what about the data I'm not capturing, right? So, we have a lot of events where you show up, you bought a table, and all I have at the end of the event is Ashish's table and 6 of his guests. Well, who are they? Mm-hmm. Well, we didn't have time to get their names. At least get their names. I mean, try to get their names in email if you can, but these are all people that, took time out of their day or their evening to come to your event. How are you going to market to them again? And so all of that stuff kind of sets you up for what can, be powerful, for you in the future, which is, hey, now I have all this data. I've got years of it. And man, this AI stuff is going to tell me stuff I never would have imagined, I think, when you go back and look at it. Hey, here's a guy you've been inviting him every year, and, we strongly recommend you make a big ask to this person. And you never would have thought about it because you're looking for the guy that gives you $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 a year. And here's somebody who's been to your event, bought a table every year for 5 years, and all of a sudden, had you asked him for $25,000, he'd probably give it to you. I don't know. You never know.
Yeah, I think we'll love to see that application, come true, and I think it's in the works already.
Yeah. This has been a fantastic conversation. I tell you what, I mean, I love all the technology stuff, and I absolutely applaud guys like you in the industry that are helping charities get there, because as we mentioned earlier in the podcast, a lot of these guys look at technology as just a cost center, and they look at it as a big hurdle, or they don't understand it, or I don't have the resources in place to maintain it. I'm going to have some guy come in, he's going to put all this amazing stuff in place, and it's just going to sit there because we don't know how to use it. So the fact that you're helping them get past all of those hurdles is awesome.
Yeah, and we are all pretty passionate about it. Like this is something I tell my team literally every time we meet. And I say, there's nowhere else, no other business where, we are sitting at our desk using just arms and brains to make things happen, and, impacting the lives of, millions around the globe. That's the power of serving the nonprofits. And, if I was doing the same stuff for any other industry, I can't have that reach. And so personally, it gives me a lot of fulfillment, and it's the same thing with a lot of people that work with us at 108. It's about, how do we tie this to the end goal and the purpose, the impact we are able to create.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's why, I mean, a lot of us are in this space for the exact same reason, because, we're here to make a difference, and it's fun to see that happen, especially with our clients. So for any of our listeners here that want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to reach out to you, if they're interested in your services?
Wow. I'd like to make it easy for them. Just email my first name, Ashish, ASHISH at 108ideaspace.com. Just email, and you should hear from us. I would love to hear from nonprofit organizations, because that's what we are so passionate about serving.
Yeah, well, I hope they hear from you, because this is what you do, right? You help them figure out how to build a similar type of sales funnel. So that'd be awesome. You guys should definitely get in touch with him. I tell you what, like, optimizing that entire flow is so important, for generating the donor base that you're looking for. So thank you guys so much for listening today. Ashish, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us and our listeners. I appreciate it. And you know what? We're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of Elevate Your Event. Until next time, happy fundraising.
If you enjoyed our show, please take a moment to leave us a review. You can find us on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Don't forget to subscribe for more great content. And if you're a fan of video, check us out on YouTube. Until next time, happy fundraising.